Hello, 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 everyone.
What's
And
going down?
Welcome. Thank you, Tommy and Thindu, for joining me once again
My man.
as we begin our third installment on The Godfather.
All right.
Salute, guys.
Let's just say hello to a whole bunch of people in the chat. We have 16 people already, which is pretty awesome. Big Bones, Maureen, Arlene, TT, Gerard, Arm Distance, Adam, William, Carmela. Let's see. Am I missing anybody? I think I'm hitting everybody here. I'm going through it. Michael Moormile. I said Maureen already. I think we hit everybody, and I'm sure more people will come in as we continue to talk. Steve Morinello. Edwin was here before. Tammy is in and out. We got all the regulars here today, which is awesome.
Very nice.
All right. So today's scene is when Tom Hagen must go to meet Mr. Woltz. And actually, I spelt his name wrong in the tagline. It's actually Waltz, W-O-L-Z, instead of A-L-Z. But anyway, Mr. Waltz is the record producer. And what the book tells us is that he's the top three. He's a top three, movie producers in the country. And in fact, they tell us that he is so powerful. He's doing war films. He's doing war propaganda films. He holds a seat on the president's advisory council, and he often has dinner with J. Edgar Hoover, who, as we all know, is the famous head of the FBI. So Mr. Waltz is nobody to play with. He's pretty powerful person at the time in 1945. But
The money.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. You were saying
Well,
something?
I'd say he was made of money.
Yes.
He had everything.
Yes, absolutely. Yep. And we see that when you see basically the palace that he lives in, and you learn that he spent $600,000 to buy one racing horse.
Yeah. Cost more than most people's houses, that horse.
Right. Absolutely.
At that time, it was like $1.5 million worth of money. 600,000.
Oh yeah. That's right. You got to remember about the time value of money. 600,000 back then.
Right after World War II, he had a ton of money.
Right. So, go ahead, Tommy. You say something?
So, you said a little bit about the book. There was more in the book. What you were saying that information is more book than it is the film.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. And the movie we don't know that. All we know is that he's a movie producer. And that he holds the power over Johnny Fontane because of this particular role that fits him, that fits Johnny Fontane. It's going to refurbish his career. It's going to rebuild him. It's going to make him the big star he once was again. So he has a lot of power from that alone in the movie. So what I would say was with this is, the very basis of this is Tom Hagen has to drop everything. And we see this in the movie where the Godfather says, we'll talk about Sollozzo when you get back from California. And Tom Hagen says, when am I going to California? Like it's a complete surprise to him. When am I going to California? Yeah. And to think about it, in 1945, plane travel was not that common. It happened, it existed, but it wasn't like today. People didn't just jump on a plane and fly all over the place. So it shows you the importance this is to the Godfather. It's an important mission, and it has nothing to do with business. It's an important mission because this is his godson, and he needs to take care of this. He needs to make sure his godson is well protected. And that to me is a powerful cultural statement right there. He's dropping the business and he's going to California out of the blue to deal with this.
Yeah, it looks like he didn't have anything to gain business-wise at that moment.
Right.
If you look at it, it didn't look like a business move, calculated type of thing. It just looked like a favor to his godson and something that he was supposed to do. That we would all probably do something like that without expecting a return on investment, so to speak.
Right, exactly. exactly. And you learn from the book, and this is another fact you learn from the book, is that Johnny Fontaine's father died, and because of that, the Godfather feels like he has even more responsibility for Johnny Fontaine. He's his godfather. Johnny Fontaine's actual father had passed away, and he feels like he has to be more involved, and he has to go the extra mile for him.
Yeah.
All right, so here's an interesting fact. How does he get on a plane? He gets on a plane, and he gets on a plane because he has a pass from someone from the Pentagon who gets him on a plane really quick. This again is in the books, not in the movie, and it shows the length of the power of the Don. Right, he has somebody in the Pentagon that he's able to get this pass to get on a plane immediately and go to California, which. And that kind of harkens back to reality a bit, right? Like during World War II, when the United States government was really relying on organized crime to protect the ports from spies, from German spies, from Japanese spies. They really had an alliance with organized crime because organized crime controlled all of that. So there was this connection with the government at that particular time. They weren't trying to nobody was trying to put mobsters in jail at that time because they were needed. They were needed for this purpose to help us win the war effort.
That's unbelievable.
They were winning elections too at the time.
Mm-hmm. So it just shows a little bit more in terms of the length of the Godfather's arm, so to speak. He can reach out to the Pentagon and get a pass. All right, so Tom Hagen gets on the plane to fly to Hollywood, and it's also during this time, if you read the book, we learn a lot more about the origin of Tom Hagen, because as he's on the plane going to Florida, he starts reflecting on his life, and the book tells you how he's reflecting on his life and how his mother was blind and then dies. His father was an alcoholic, drinks himself to death, and he finds himself on the street alone, sleeping in alleys. Homeless. He had a younger sister who was actually put in foster care, but he wasn't. He was left to run the streets by himself. And then Sonny finds him, brings him home, and takes him into the Corleone family. So to me, this is another cultural aspect. And Tommy, you know this yourself because your personal history with a family taking on somebody into your home, because somebody, someone who, and I'm not just saying this is Italian, but I think it's common in Italian families where you take someone who needs help into the family and they actually become a member of the family.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And this goes back to my grandfather my grandmother, I'm sorry. My grandmother, her mother died in the flu, the 1918 flu epidemic. And as a result, she wasn't orphaned, but her father, had she had two brothers. Her father takes my grandmother and gives her to his brother to raise. So basically she becomes his daughter. She becomes her uncle's daughter, and she called him father for the rest of her life and his wife mother for the rest of her life because she was 1 year old when it happened. But it's just a common thing that immigrants at that time did. They took care of each other. They reached out and they took care of people that needed help like that.
Well, that advance into, you say in the immigrant aspect, my mother took in Michael Martinez.
Right. And that was right. And that's more modern, way more modern than that.
Way modern. So he was in, he was being kicked around at all these, I guess, orphanages, hospitals, whatever. And me and my brother shared a room, and my mother took him in, and we put a mattress in the middle of me and my brother's bed. And my mother, became like, and she had no money to be able to feed us, but she took Michael in off the street, basically. So yeah, it goes down generations because the culture, it's in the culture.
Right.
And how many people know that? You remember that?
I do remember that. Yes, I do. I do remember that.
Wow, that's interesting. You remembered that. Oh my God. Yeah.
So that's just a little, personal thing that I connected with there. Tom Hagen being brought into the family. And we also learn a lot of stuff about his relationship with the Godfather too. And we also, I mean, and this whole scene that we're talking about is very important to the character development of Tom Hagen. How he handles this situation is very important because it all harkens back to what he's taught by the Godfather as to how to deal with people, how to handle a situation like this. And we'll see that as we go through that. But it's a very important scene because you're not going into the depth in the book that's in the book, but I think the scene itself does this. It shows it very well how Tom Hagen, his personality, the way he controls his emotions, the way he handles that particular situation, goes deeply to the philosophy of the Godfather and how he taught him to be this way.
Wow.
Right. So let's talk about the scene itself. He gets there, and the scene we see him. Let me see. And I think I have a screenshot of this, which I will share. We see him when he first meets Waltz in his studio. It looks like it's on the studio, like on the back lot of a Hollywood studio. That's what we see him meeting Waltz. So let me see if I pull this picture up real quick. Let's see. Here it is. So this is when Tom Hagen meets Waltz for the first time in the studio, and he begins to go through his pitch. Right? Why? And Waltz is a busy guy. Start talking. Basically, that's basically what he says. Start talking. I don't have time for this. So start talking.
Oh, that's amazing.
And
look at that. Yeah.
So he starts talking, right? He starts giving his pitch. And what is his pitch? His pitch is, I represent somebody, and he doesn't tell him he represents Don Corleone. He tells him, I'm here to talk to you about, I represent a client who wants to help Johnny Fontaine, and then he can provide you with favors. So Waltz says, okay, what are the favors? And what are the favors we hear? First is that you're going to have union troubles. Classic organized crime thing. You control the unions. You have power, right? Classical. You can't get more than that.
Naturally, yeah. With all of that stuff, you're controlling everything. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But he didn't tell him. But he did not tell him.
No. He did not mention he represents a specific family. He doesn't represent the Don. He doesn't. All he says is that you're going to have union troubles. My client can make them disappear.
Right. So
then he moved. Go ahead. Somebody
crazy. So you think of that as he's waiting, or he's calculating that he doesn't want to let the cat out of the bag, so to speak, and then he tries to see possibly, when it comes out who it is, what kind of power is actually behind the Don.
Mm-hmm.
As we see, he defies the power, but Tom was probably trying to play that angle also to see if he really respects the Don.
Sure.
Like, what respect does he have for him?
Right. And when he finally finds out, right, when Waltz has a background check, for lack of a better word, he has him checked out. It's a background check.
Check him out.
He finds out and he says, why didn't you tell me you represented Corleone? And he says, what does Tom Hagen say? He says, well, I don't like to use his name unless I have to. So he's playing a game there. He's playing the negotiation game. He's going to start off and see what he can get on his own. And then he's going to go to different levels along the way.
It was played perfectly.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So as he goes through this, let me see. There was something I wrote down I wanted to mention about this. So what happens is, this is another interesting point that happens in the book that you don't know about, is before Tom Hagen meets with him, he makes a call to the union lawyer. He makes it by the name of Golf was the guy's name. And he makes the union lawyer call Waltz first. And this is different from the movie, because what happens is in other words, when Tom Hagen meets with Waltz already knows that union trouble is happening, because he gets a call from the union leader saying, you're going to have trouble. You better talk to this guy. This guy can make the troubles go away. So he kind of preps him for that. All right. All right. So what happens? Waltz basically, and this is a key, right? So Waltz rejects this immediately. He rejects it. And he gets angry. And he says, "Are you trying to muscle me? I don't care how many guinea hoods come out of the woodwork. Blah blah blah." He throws out his racial or his ethnic thing. But Tom Hagen doesn't get jarred from it. He doesn't get jarred at all. He just very calmly says, what does he say? "I'm German Irish," whatever he says in the movie. When he goes, "My kraut, let me listen to you, my kraut make friend." Well, I'm German Irish, right? It's because he assumes he's an Italian. He's not, and he says, I'm German Irish. And then he says, "Thank you. Here's my card. I will, and I'll I love your pictures. I really appreciate your pictures." Now, this is the classic way you deal with a situation. And in the book, Tom Hagen reflects on it, and he says to himself, how stupid is this guy? He's judging Waltz through this conversation. He's saying, how stupid is this guy that he lets his emotions get a control of him? How can he be this powerful and allow his emotions to control him? Because this is the opposite of what the Godfather taught him. The Godfather told him, the most powerful people are those that control their emotions. They don't show their emotions.
Right.
They're reserved. They relax. They think through things. But Waltz is off the angle immediately. He's getting angry, and I'll make trouble for you. Blah blah blah. In the book, he says, "I'll call J. Edgar Hoover. I know him." All this stuff, all making threats.
Interesting.
So it's important because it shows the depth of Tom Hagen and what his philosophy is, and how he learned it from the Don.
Yeah. His ways were taught, obviously, being taken in at such a young age. His ways were taught, and somewhat natural, maybe, but really nicely done. Not reacting to the problem,
right?
And it's coming, right? It's going to take care of itself. And he goes about his business because he's not the one to inflict the repercussion of the conversation or the action.
Yeah, he's a negotiator. That's his job.
Yeah. But he's not a strong arm negotiator. He just delivers it.
Mm-hmm. Now, this particular conversation gets him invited back to Waltz's palace, right? He gets a call, and in the book it says he gets a call from his secretary, and it says, bring an overnight bag. You could sleep here. It goes a little bit more into depth. You could sleep at the mansion and blah blah blah, and then we'll get you to the airport the next day. All this stuff. Come and have a dinner with us. So he goes. Now, this whole time, Tom Hagen is also using this as an opportunity to continue to assess Waltz, to continue to assess what he's capable of. Are there weaknesses? And as you see, we find out the weakness, right? The weakness is this horse. The weakness is the horse. And the only reason he would Tom finds that out is because Tom goes there, and that's the main thing he wants to show him. That's his proudest thing. That's this guy's proudest thing, a horse that he bought. So that's a weakness immediately. He's sharing a weakness that the Corleones can exploit by him doing that.
And the action is something that's a very, very, very nicely calculated action. It's not injury to property. It's not beating somebody up. It's not even threatening anybody.
Right.
There's almost no crime in what was done. Beautifully done.
Right.
Tom Hagen just brings back to the Don what this guy loves, likes, cares for, and 24 hours later,
right, exactly,
almost no crime was committed.
Right.
I mean, but nobody was hurt.
Taking of property, basically. That's what it really is. It's a taking of property.
Yeah. Trespassing, animal cruelty, whatever, something,
Right.
Nobody got cracked with a bat or shot.
Yeah.
Or broken windows in the house. Nothing.
Exactly.
Calculated beautifully. That scene was done so nice. Beautifully done.
What happened to Theme Do here? Where did he go?
I don't know. He left.
All right. Well,
Sorry, my life ain't that cut out. I had to take care of something.
it's okay.
All right.
It's okay. You don't have servants like Mr. Waltz to take care of things?
No, I am Mr. Waltz and the whole army. Yep. I take care of the horses. I clean the horse shit and feed them the hay.
All right, so he's at the table with for dinner. He's at the table for dinner with Mr. Waltz, and this is where we see a glaring cultural aspect. The whole conversation is how important Johnny Fontaine is to the Don because he's his godfather. That's basically the whole pitch here, is that he's explaining to Woltz why he's doing this envoy, why he's looking for this favor, and it all goes back to a very deep-held religious belief in the relationship between a godfather and a godson. And that's explaining to Woltz, he's laying it on the table, basically, that's saying, look, this has to get done. This is so important. This has to get done. And here's why it's so important. He's not threatening, never threatening anybody but saying this is how important it is. He's getting the message through that this is why the Don, now that you know who the Don is, now you know how committed he is to getting Johnny this role.
Yeah.
And what's Waltz's reaction? Well, Waltz, again, loses his temper and gets angry.
Yeah. It's interesting.
Now,
The little rich kid.
well, yes. And see, now here, this is an interesting part too, because
Yeah, Dean, dude, that's a good point. Like a spoiled brat.
you get, like, from watching the movie, you get the impression that this guy has had money his entire life.
Yup.
He's a spoiled brat.
Born into it.
Right. In the book, he's a self-made man. In the book, he grows up on the East Side in New York City, collecting cans. They give you a background on Waltz, and he's a self-made man. And it's so ironic that someone like that turned into what he did. He goes to Hollywood, makes it big, and he's poisoned by it. He becomes what he's been poisoned by it. He was a pure person, right? Pure, self-made, worked hard to get where he is, and then he totally gives into it and turns into this, something that's not good.
That's what self-made men do.
Mm-hmm.
I guess. Yes, dude, that makes sense because from what we see in Dean, you're right. What you're saying, what you see in the movie is a spoiled brat kid. What the book is saying is that this guy really made it. Maybe that's why he was so ignorant or arrogant, because I made this myself. So like you're saying, you missed that whole part. Wow.
Now, like you said, okay, spoiled rich young kid. He's going to be that way his whole life. Unless something drastic happens and everything's taken away from him. Now, you get a self-made man, a guy that came from the gutter, a guy that came from poverty, and he made it to where he don't have to worry like Waltz anymore. You're untouchable.
Right.
You're a self-made man. To you, you're Don Corleone, right? You're Don Corleone yourself.
Yeah.
Wow.
Good point.
Wow, that's interesting. That is so
Think
interesting.
about it. Now listen.
Yeah.
He's Don Corleone out in L.A. He's got servants. He's got killers. He's got whatever he wants. But the one thing he don't have is that Sicilian tradition of being a self-made man like the Godfather.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Because that makes sense. They're both self-made men.
Yes.
So I guess the way Waltz is thinking of it, you can't hurt me. I came from zero and I could go back to zero. I'm not giving in.
I can call anybody I want. But what did I just say? Now you have Don Corleone coming from the streets of New York. He's 10 times tougher. He's 10 times more ruthless. And he's got a lot more than you'll ever have in an army. So that's what you get. I'm going to stop there for the next part.
No, it's good.
Yeah.
Perfect. Good stuff.
I you know what? I was around the self-made man in my life. So I get it.
Yeah. Yeah. So the question is, this is what's in Tom Hagen's mind. How do you get through to a self-made man? How do you do this? How do you get him to do what you want him to do?
It's very difficult because you can't hurt him.
Right.
You can't give him money. He's got all the money.
You can, when someone starts from zero and attains wealth and they're humble about it and they're very confident, they can go back to the bare bones basics. So he's not worried about Don Corleone because although what Dindu says, it looks like he's this rich kid. He really didn't grow up this rich kid. We don't see from the movie how he's self-made.
Right.
Right.
So what Dindu's saying is a great point, but it's only the movie perspective.
Right.
And you're right, because it's real. But he's not afraid to go back to zero, evidently. He's like, I built this. Where's he come? He's not taking me out.
Yeah. Right. So Tom Hagen needs to figure out what is the currency here? Like what is the leverage? What's the leverage here? And he finds it out because of his own vanity. He should the horse. His own vanity.
Don't forget, I'm sorry, ALV.
Yeah, go ahead. No.
This is a drastic point. Do you remember right before all this what he says? Right before they split away? Yeah, Tom. I'm no band leader.
Oh, yes. Right.
Boomba, greaseballs, and I'm no band leader. Yes, you are, because I just explained it 5 minutes ago.
Right.
The more ruthless and the more streetwise is going to devour you right now.
Right.
That's the only way I could put it.
Right.
Yeah. Perfect.
Now, here's a question for both of you, and I'm curious what your thoughts are on this. If the conversation didn't go as it went, in the sense that if Woltz wasn't so disrespectful and nasty, do you think the horse's head would have happened? Do you think that was what caused this, so to speak, caused the drastic action of the horse's head?
I'm no band leader.
Yeah. That is it.
As soon as that phone call went over, you don't think Hagen said, yeah, he said he's no band leader, Godfather. Do what we got to do. Right there. That wasn't drastic. That was proving a point immediately.
I think
instant karma, boys. That instant karma, you can't
100%. I think if he respectfully turned him down, or if he acted the way he did, he's still going to get the same result. It was happening.
Yeah. It was happening.
It was
right. It's his godchild. He's going to do anything in his hand to make that happen.
Right. Yeah, because he refused him and disrespected him. Even just the refusal was going to lead to the same action because it had to happen.
Now, did you ever think of this one? Dindu did, of course. Like you guys said, do you think the horse's head would happen? Either way, it was going to happen. Do you know how much energy that costs to make that happen to somebody? Okay, think about it. What do you think? They just had 2-3 guys there to do that hit?
Have it done, right.
There was an army there ready, just waiting for go. Because something like that is very energetic to a human.
A lot of guys, a lot of people involved to make it happen. You're right.
Yeah.
But a lot of people to make a small crime happen, so to speak.
Well, you got to remember, he had his own security. They had to go around that, probably do them in. You don't get all them details,
Right. And you think to do this, considering all those factors, the effort, to your point, the effort it takes. They had to get through security. They had to get into the house without anybody noting. They had to do all of this and then get out of there to the point where he just wakes up and finds it in his bed. It's very impressive operation.
And that's why you wake up, get out of that bed and go, okay, he's got the part. What just happened here? Okay.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. And the thing is, And now there's a deleted scene here, which I'll post on my community page after this. And this deleted scene tells us that Waltz is not only ruthless, but he's also a pedophile. He was molesting this 12-year-old girl. Now there's a scene where the 12-year-old girl and the wife and the mother, she brings him. She's a aspiring actress, and in order for her to be successful, he has to spend time with her. And there's a scene where Tom Hagen's leaving, and he sees the girl come running out crying. Running out crying and leaving with the mother right behind her.
Yes, you're right, ALV. Yes.
So that I submit this, because this is also in the book. I submit when Tom Hagen tells that to the Godfather, that seals his fate. When he finds that out, he seals it. This guy's no good. This guy is garbage, and that's in the book, because in the book he says he's an infamia. The Godfather calls Waltz an infamia. Yeah, and infamita. He says what an infamita he calls him when he finds out about the child, that this kid, that he's molesting a child.
I forgot all about that.
I'm surprised that now that you say that, I'm surprised that it was only the horse that was done. When you add that component to it.
Yeah.
Now you add that component to it. He should have been hurt.
It should have been Waltz.
But for the movie purpose.
And also remember, what's the ultimate goal here? He has total disrespect for this guy because of that. But the ultimate goal is to get Fontaine the picture. He doesn't want to disrupt everything so much that maybe the picture wouldn't take place. Who knows what would happen? You know?
Yes.
Let's talk about the first time that we ever seen that part. Tell me it didn't put instant fear in you.
Crazy.
As a kid.
Right. Absolutely.
Wow, that could happen. I'll never forget my father's face. I didn't even get an explanation.
Unbelievable.
Yup, amazing.
Actually, hold on a second. I have a still of the scene, which I will put up. I'll put it up later. A still of Waltz with the girl. Hold on.
Yeah.
Here it is.
That was a real horse's head. It was.
They made it.
This is Waltz. This is the girl. This is the actress that plays the girl.
It's Grazia. Look at him. I love that. They should have.
Wait, this is a deleted scene?
Yes, it's from a deleted scene. Yes.
Wow.
They should have put his head in the fish tank or the barn.
right.
Wow.
With his eyeballs popping out, ALV.
See, the movie, like we said, could have been 15 hours because what they could have done was they could have got him the job, Johnny Fontaine the job, and then go back for the vengeance part for the kid. But you're talking about another hour in the film, you know?
Yep.
You cut his leaky off and everything there.
It could have really been a 12-hour movie. One, just Godfather 1.
Yeah.
It could have been two movies. It could have been part 1 and part 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Wow, interesting. Holy shit.
But, who knows why they deleted that too. There might have been in 1971, I don't know how keen they were in having a molester, like in a movie, like a child molester in a movie too. That probably had something to do with it as well. Like, we're not going to include that.
It wasn't that period, that time.
Yeah.
Right.
That makes sense. Yeah, I could get that.
Yeah, but there was a lot of that going on at that time. There was a lot
turned
of
off an audience
going on. There was a lot of that bullshit going on back then because nobody was aware of it. Nobody ever would want to speak up on it either.
Yeah.
So it's a different time now, boys.
Yeah. Yep.
Very interesting.
Yeah, and so the whole thing, with Waltz and Waltz is all doing this simply because, again, it has to do with a woman. And that's why he hates Johnny Fontaine, because Johnny Fontaine took this woman away from him, and this was, you know, and he says she runs off with his olive oil of voice and his guinea charm, and she runs off with him, and she throws it all away to make him look ridiculous. And that's the key point. It's all about his ego. It's not about, you know, loving a person or, you know, him wanting her so bad. It's all about his ego.
Yup.
Interesting. Wow. Yes, it is.
Yeah, so it's all about his manhood.
Mm-hmm.
He took her from me. I want to do something about it. You know, I want to ruin that guy.
Mm-hmm.
So that goes to Tindu's part about the spoiled brat part, but then the book part, it's a little different. His ego getting twisted because he was self-made. Mm-hmm. So that goes with both the book and the film. That's good.
Yeah.
Well, Stiggs, you got to remember, I didn't get that. Stomp their feet. I'll ruin anything you have. That's how they act.
Right.
Those kids and guys with money, they'll do anything to despise you. If you got something they don't have or can't get, forget it.
Yeah. Yep.
Or they'll try to trip you up somehow, you know, mess your shit up.
Now, you guys made up a good point. You know, you said this before, that Mr. Waltz has so much money, like he doesn't care what could happen to him, right? He's got so much money. He's a self-made person. What could happen to him? The weakness is the horse, but here's the real weakness. The weakness is the ego, because if it got out that they killed his horse, the thing that he loved, that would destroy him. It would destroy him emotionally. And that's what gives him, that's in the book. It says it in the book. That's where he decides to go along and give Johnny Fontaine the role, because he can't let it out that they got in and killed his horse. He can't let that get out.
That crushes his reputation. It crushes his reputation.
Everything.
And everything he built up to that day. If that gets out.
So he adhered quietly.
Yes.
Wow.
And in the book, it says he gets all the servants together. He swears them to secrecy that this horse died of an illness, and they bury the horse on the grounds.
Wow. Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't get to that part yet in the book.
Yeah. Yep.
That's some good stuff right there.
I can't wait. I can't wait to get to that part in the book. Oh, wow. That's great.
Yeah.
That really is interesting.
Carmela brought up a good point. Hollywood is still disgusting in the aspect of abused women and predators.
Oh, of course.
And they can't make a movie, Carmela. Then you can't have a bad guy or make a movie, honey.
Yeah.
It's disgusting. Yeah. I know. And anything that has to do with hurting kids and a woman is just brutal.
Mm-hmm.
You know, somebody sent me the one clip, and it's a little off, but real fast.
Mm-hmm.
They sent me that clip of what's his name from I'm sorry, I got the box set and I gotta watch it. Tiggs from Sons of Anarchy. There's a part in there where he did something and they chained him up and they put his daughter in a concrete well and burned her alive.
Oh God, good grief.
And it's like, how? In God's name, as a father and a street guy, I'm like, oh, Hollywood is fucked up. I mean, who thinks about a part like that? You know, I mean, you wanted to express the point and make a point. Boy, did you. Okay.
Yeah. Right.
But look at the point Hollywood went through to express that. I'm like, you know what? I might wait to watch that shit. You know?
What is that? That's about a motorcycle gang, right?
Yes. The motorcycles. Yes. Yeah. But it's just the aspect of what we're talking about, kids and women, you know.
Yeah, sure.
That's all.
There's an aspect of this that I just wanted to touch on real quick with Tom Hagen, and how, you know, we talked about at the last episode how there was the part that was deleted where Jenko dies. He's the old consigliere, and Tom Hagen takes over. And Tom Hagen learns about this as he gets on the flight. The book tells us he learns about this as he gets on the flight. Yeah. So he's very, you know, he's happy about he's achieved this, and it goes, and this goes back to the whole him reflecting on his life, and we learn that when he's growing up, the Don treats him better than his sons. The Don treats him, but not emotionally better. Like he'll give him anything he wants, but there isn't that emotional connection. There isn't that. That's very clear. But he pays for everything. He pays for him to go to school, pays for the best clothing, pays for everything he wants. He's taken him on as a ward, basically. And then when he graduates law school, the Don sits him down and says, "What do you want to do? I can set you up on a firm. I can set you up at your own firm. I'll do that for you, whatever you want to do." And Tom Hagen says to him, "No, I want to just work for you." And at that point is when the Godfather changes towards him and basically treats him as his own son, because he reached out to him and said, "I want to be with you. I want to work for you only. I want to be with you only." And from then on, he treats him like a son, like Michael or Sonny or any of them. He treats him exactly like a son from that point on. And Tom Hagen is overjoyed at that, because that was something that he was always missing in his life. Yeah. And now he has an actual father, the way he was treating him. So it's a very deep part of this that you get by listening to the part where he's on the plane reflecting on his life now that he's consigliere.
Yeah.
Okay. That's the part I got to in the book. That's where I stopped.
Because eventually he tells them, I'm just as much as a son as you and Michael and Sonny are.
Right.
Yes.
So he even knows it. Tom even knows it. The value of what he has there and what he became.
Yes.
So I went back to the part in the book where you said when he's dying and everything. So powerful.
Ain't that great?
Yep.
When Jenko's dying, oh my God. Wow.
The Grim Reaper will be scared of you, Godfather. Only he won't come here. That was priceless.
What an amazing part of the book that was.
Yeah.
Leading up to this. So now
yes,
I'm leading into this part that we're reviewing today. That's my next, obviously.
Right.
That's what I'll be listening to, next. Amazing.
Yep. Good shit right here.
I watch your. I don't know. I don't quite understand what you're asking. You're saying
the special forces unit of the mob are the enforcers. I watch. Come on, the enforcers and leg breakers, the collectors, the hitmen. Those are the special forces. If that's what you're talking about. I mean.
We know what, Patty. We know when the Godfather's birthday is. We know that from the final scene of The Godfather 2.
Yeah. It's his birthday.
Pearl Harbor Day.
Pearl Harbor Day.
Yes.
Pearl Harbor Day.
Yep.
What did he say? Right. They bombed. The Japs bombed us on Pop's birthday.
On Pop's birthday, yeah. And then Fredo says, "What did Fredo say? They didn't know it was his birthday.
They didn't know it was Pop's birthday." I can't take it. They didn't know it was Pop's birthday. The Japanese. Oh.
Excellent. Wow, that was great.
I mean, only a Sicilian could say something like that. But they didn't know it was birthday. I mean,
and the other interesting thing, just a note, just an anecdote from the book, is that when when it's announced that Tom Hagen is the consigliere, the other families call the Corleone family the Irish gang.
Yeah,
it's so funny, because this was the first time anyone who was a non-Sicilian was able to attain that rank of consigliere. So they call them the Irish gang.
Well, not for nothing, it was probably the only Irish consigliere ever, to tell you the truth.
Right, exactly. Right.
Yeah. That's great. That's great.
Funny stuff.
Yep.
Oh, so the last thing I wanted to show you guys is in the continuing theme that we see throughout the whole process is this right here.
Oh, the
right
dinner.
Here on the table.
Oranges.
We have a bunch of oranges on the table at the dinner with Woltz.
Waltz. Well, that's Waltz's too.
Yeah, it's Waltz's house. Yes, it's Waltz's house, and there's a bunch of oranges, which foretells the horse's doom. I guess. I guess that's what it foretells.
That's hilarious.
Unbelievable.
I'll never forget Mikey saying that. Don't forget to see how many oranges are in this movie.
Right.
Mikey, I got it. Said it.
Yep.
Good point. Arlene, that's a good point. He may have resented Tom, but you got to remember they didn't consider Michael as a player in the game. So Sonny was whatever Sonny was, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Fredo was Fredo.
Well,
Michael wasn't in the game, so
they knew Fredo was no go. They
Right.
knew Sonny, like the Godfather. He could never be a
Cowboy.
Don. He was
Cowboy.
an enforcer.
Yeah.
He was a fighter.
Cowboy.
That's all.
Yeah.
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 So Michael wasn't interested. Michael wasn't involved, and Tom was considered a son by that point. So,
right, and it's a genuine feeling on the part of Michael. You see it, and you see it in how Pacino plays the part too, and that he wants nothing to do with the family business until we get to the point where he does. But he wanted nothing to do with it, and it was very clear. That's not that's my family. That's not me. That's my family. He goes off and he gets a deferment, and he goes and joins the Marines. He gets deferred. He wasn't going to get drafted. The Godfather made sure he wasn't going to get drafted during World War II. You know how hard that was? Everybody got drafted during World War II.
Right. Until they hit his father and broke his nose, then he wanted to get involved.
Right. Right. Exactly.
The two worst things that could happen to you: your father getting hit, and the chief of police breaking your
jaw or your jaw. Yeah. I think it's
your nose.
Yeah.
He could never breathe right after that punch.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
He always had the handkerchief and
amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
Really good. Wow.
So, So listen, I think we did a great job on this one. I think this was a good discussion. We really got into depth here and the character development of Tom Hagen, as well as the Waltz and exploiting the weaknesses, and that's the power. That is the power of intelligence in organized crime. That's what they're demonstrating here. Is that the Godfather was all about thinking through things. He wasn't about going off half cocked, shooting off things. It was all about thinking through, figuring out what's the best angle to an end. That's what it was all about. And how do you do that? You take emotion out of it. So emotion is a weakness. Emotion clouds the issue. You take the emotion out and you calculately get to your end. And that's what he did in this whole scene. That was the whole purpose of it. To show that.
A reaction to an action tells you everything.
Mm-hmm.
Everything you need to know about an individual. Their weaknesses come out when they're aggravated.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fact. Yep. We know this, right? So obviously, because Sonny's weakness was found out when he reacted to not a specific action, a verbal action or a planned.
But of course, you see the way they had to get him. Of course, they had to beat up his sister. A woman.
Well,
you make a man go berserk when you touch the women. So,
so they knew his reaction was the cowboy reaction. They knew how to set him up because they figured him out already. They figured out his weakness, as Anthony's saying. The way they calculating in organized crime, calculating is the winner. The calculator is the winner. Even in business, the calculator quiet one is the winner.
How many times have we been guilty of that one, though? Getting that phone call and rushing out like a madman? Are you kidding me?
What? Oh, yeah.
I should have been dead a dozen times if that was the case.
That's the first, and it's the human reaction. What you have to do is overcome it, right? That's the objective, is to overcome that emotional reaction to things.
Right.
But
I learned very young not to react.
Right.
Listen, you know how many I got caught in 2-3 times in that position on a setup like that. The only thing you could do is go in bombing. That's all you can do. Take it for what it's worth. At that time, you're so mad and you don't care.
I got to tell you,
doesn't matter what happens to you anyways.
In 12th grade, that was the first thing I was taught. That's what they taught me immediately. And it wasn't my own family who was part of my involvement. It was somebody outside my family that trained me to hold your reactions. Keep it quiet. You're going to get them. It's going to come. And I learned that very, very, very young. That was the first thing I learned because they had experience in it already.
Right.
You know, sometimes it costs you for not reacting, though, too.
Sure, it does. Sure, it does. But but in that life, it's always better. But in that life, as we see with Sonny, it's always better to not be predictable for your reaction to an action. Well, he was so predictable. He was so predictable that they had him. They got him. You know?
They were in the middle of a war, anyways, and you know, conniving and shenanigans around. I mean, it was easy to set those guys up like that.
So we'll talk about that when we get to that scene. We'll talk about that stuff more in depth when we get to that scene. The next scene we're going to do is the meeting with Sollozzo, with Virgil Sollozzo. That's going to be the next meeting. And there's more, you're going to see some of the stuff we talked about here in that scene also. We'll get into that next week. But but yeah, so
that's gonna be a good one.
Yeah, that's a good one. It's
a little long. It's probably going to be a little long. It's a little more deep. It might be a little more deep, but now you're starting to get into the nuts and bolts. That's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
Well, right.
Oh, I can't wait for that one. That's going to be a great one.
So
you've had 25 strong.
Oh yeah.
For an hour since the start of the show, ALV. That's wonderful.
Sky's the limit
people are enjoying it. I think people are talking to each other. They're it's good. It's good. They're reacting. They're reacting to what we're saying. It's good.
That's why we're here.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Anybody got questions? Anybody a question they got to get off their head real faster?
Excellent. Wow. Really
Arm
nice.
distance. Yes, exactly. Always think about the situation. Plan ahead. Have a plan A, B, C, and D. Yep.
Yeah.
I'm going to speak about this with not ignorance or arrogance, but with confidence that these shows are kicking ass. We got this on lock. This is on lock. We got this on lock.
And two, we advertise all week for this show too.
I know.
So
we do. We do plug
a
lot.
You have it in my community. You have it in Stig's. Everybody else. So that's good stuff right there.
Use those hashtags. Use that no more than 3 hashtags.
Well, you can also, guys, if you please like, if you can, it'll help with sharing this out. If you like, as you're leaving, today, please, just click that button. It'll help us out as we can share it with a broader audience. YouTube will share it out a bit.
You see, I didn't do that, and you just reminded me. Beautiful.
Right.
Adam says Marlon Brando was also Superman's father. Yeah, we know that. We know that he was Jor-El. We know that.
That's a big deal, Adam.
Yeah, that is right. But it's fact.
Yeah. Yep.
All right.
But anyway, guys, listen. I want to thank everyone. First of all, I want to thank everyone for joining and spending a good hour with us. It was a good discussion. It was a deep discussion. We got into some things. I hope I shared some stuff that you didn't know about. If you hadn't read the book, it helps from a broader context understand the characters a little bit more. And I will share that deleted scene. If you guys are interested, just go to my community page after this and you'll be able to see it. But thank each and every one of you. And of course, thank you, Tommy and Thindu, for spending this hour with me. Couldn't do it without you guys. It's very, very helpful.
My pleasure, Bob. Love you.
What we do here.
Yep.
All right.
All right, everyone. Have a wonderful afternoon, Sunday afternoon. God bless. And thank you always for tuning in.
God bless.
All right, guys.
Love you.
Later.
Bye-bye.
Be good.
All right.